Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nutrition by Carmen podcast. Thank you so much for joining me and supporting this podcast. Just having you listen means so much to me, and I'm so grateful. And I wanted to just ask if you've listened to the last few episodes and you have not yet rated or reviewed my podcast, I would so appreciate if you could take less than 1 minute to give me a 5-star rating and review. That will help so much get this podcast out there. And if you are watching on YouTube, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel and comment on there as well if you're liking what you're listening to. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm bringing a brand new episode to you right now. And this one is all about, should you set New Year's resolutions, and what my thoughts are around dry January. Now, as always, before we get into the nitty-gritty and all the juicy details of this episode, are you sitting down right now? Because you know that movement and getting up and being active is a huge part of my life, my nutrition clients' lives as well. And so I would highly encourage you to stand up, pace around your house, pause this episode to put your shoes on and go outside and just get some fresh air, because that is something amazing for the body. So back to the topic here. So I thought this was a great time to sort of chat about 2023, which is just around the corner. I know it is shocking, but it is true, and we are here. And so I wanted to talk about dry January because a lot of people recently have told me, oh, I can't wait for the new year because I'm going to stop drinking alcohol. And so that basically brings me to, what is dry January? And let's just chat about it for a moment. So if you're listening and you have not heard about dry January, so dry January is typically when people start the new year off eliminating alcohol completely. And they do this in January because it's the start of a new year. We're coming off of holiday season, which means, New Year's Eve parties probably just happened, holiday dinners, gatherings, you name it, all of those things happened. And so some people want to start their new year off ditching alcohol completely. And they look at the month of January as sort of a detox or a reset. And I put both of those words in quotes. So detox and reset month. And, because of that, they take alcohol out of their lives for the month. And so some people also will set New Year's resolutions that involve drinking less alcohol. And so they tie in dry January with the New Year's resolutions that they have set for themselves. And we're going to chat about New Year's resolutions a little later in this episode. So stick with me because there are some important things to chat about when it comes to setting resolutions as well. And so, yes, people are coming off of a very busy month of December. It is a hectic time for so many people. And if you did not listen to my first episode of this podcast, it was all about actually navigating the holidays in a way where you could enjoy everything that was going on, but at the same time, keep things in check, relatively consistent, so that you aren't losing any progress that you may have set yourself during the year. Whether you're working on fat loss, getting healthier, getting stronger, there are ways to go through this busy time of year, keeping things in check. And so that was what my first episode was all about. But that's okay. You can always go back to it next year and take a listen. It will still be there. So back to dry January. I did do a poll on my Instagram asking people about dry January, and these were some of the replies I got. So more than half of you have tried dry January at some point in your life, and less than half, so 44% of you, have never done dry January. And so I polled the people that have done dry January, and I asked people if you completed every single day of that month without alcohol. And the majority of you did. So you were consistent for the full 31 days without a single drink. So you stuck with it and you kept to your goal. So that's great there. And then those that did dry January as well, I wanted to ask why. So what was your reason for deciding to cut alcohol? And 43% said it was because they felt like crap after the holidays. That, I have to say, that was my option. I worded that in the poll. So, it just felt gross, not vibrant, vital, and all that sort of stuff after the holidays. So a lot of people felt, like crap after the holidays, and they wanted a reset month, which is why those people started to do dry January. And 57% said that they wanted to see what cutting alcohol would do for their body and just see if it had any effect and see if it made them feel any better. And then I had some people message separately that said, all of that was true, but also, when the holiday season is around, there's just more opportunity for going out for drinks, happy hours, dinners, all of that sort of stuff. And then you might find yourself, I've had a cocktail on Tuesday, Wednesday, it's wine Wednesday. Well, I'm going to have some more wine. Thursday, well, it's basically Friday. Friday, here we come. It's the weekend. And so people get into this every day, all of a sudden I'm drinking every single night routine. And so actually I had a few people message me saying that was one of the reasons as well that they wanted to do dry January, because they felt like they were getting into this habit of having a drink every single night, and they just felt that that was not necessary, and they just wanted to kind of ease back on things. And so a lot of people that said they did dry January, and those people that completed it, said that they felt amazing and liked the results, which is fantastic. And there was a small percentage of people that had a few drinks during the month of January, but for the most part were consistent without alcohol. So I just want to say, taking a month off of alcohol may not be a bad idea if you are really looking to modify how much you drink. And, if you're going into January with cutting alcohol in mind, and you're taking that month as an opportunity to look at your habits seriously, I think it's a really fantastic idea. And then while you're going through that month, you can sort of come up with strategies and solutions for the rest of the year on how you may cut back on socially drinking, or if that's sort of what your goal is. On the other side of that, though, if you are saying, I'm going to do dry January because I want to lose weight and I just want a quick fix here, I would ask yourself, is this going to serve me long term? And the reason I say that is because when people eliminate something completely, whether it be alcohol, if it's carbs, sugar, whatever, I will always turn around and ask the question, are you going to have alcohol again at some point in your life? Are you going to have sugar again at some point in your life? Are you never going to have a carbohydrate again in your life? And so people will say, well, obviously I'm going to have alcohol again. Yeah, I'm going to have carbs. I love my bread, of course. So then I say, what is the point of completely eliminating something that you are just going to have again at some point during your life? And And there's a reason I say it like that, because typically we're always looking at ways to restrict, take something out, eliminate something, but we're not actually looking at the aftermath of that, which kind of brings me to when we set timelines on things. So whenever you're setting a timeline on something, so for example, I'm not going to drink alcohol for 31 days, or my friend is getting married in 6 weeks, I need to lose 10 pounds by that date. So when you set those really short timelines for yourself, you're automatically putting so much stress on you, because typically the timelines that people set for themselves are very, very short. It is rare, and I would love if more people could do this, is to say, you know what? In September 2023, I've got a vacation coming up, and I would love to feel confident in a 2-piece bathing suit. Amazing. You've got 9 months to really focus on habits, get your nutrition in check, get your movement going, focus on your sleep, all of that sort of stuff. And that is such a great timeline to work with, because you've actually got time to implement sustainable habits. And so this is where I don't put my nose up to it, but I just sort of question and ask why you're setting so much pressure on yourself with these short timelines. Because again, like I said, if you're setting such a short timeline, it's often something that will not be sustainable. It will require some sort of quick fix, eliminating something that you will not sustain long term. And when I work with my nutrition clients, our whole goal and the goal of my programs is to implement habits that will keep people not only happy, but able to live their life and enjoy the food and the people in their lives. And so that's why it's a bit of a slower process, but it's sustainable. And that is the goal. And so I would ask yourself, if you are doing dry January to lose weight, to depuff and feel better, or whatever it is, I would just ask yourself, am I going to drink again throughout the rest of the year? And if the answer to that is yes, I think it's fine that you do dry January if that's what you want to do. But maybe just try and scale back a little bit on how much alcohol you're having during that month. And then that is sort of you already working on those habits and behaviors that will set you up for success for the rest of the year. So yes, you're going to have alcohol from February to December 2023. Okay, totally fine. So in January, maybe instead of drinking Tuesday to Sunday, you scale that back and only do a few days. And then the next week, scale that back and only do a few less days. And so you're sort of working on that throughout the month instead of completely omitting it if you are planning to drink again during the year. And now I also just want to say, I know there are people that struggle with alcohol and there are addictions, and it is a very real thing. And if that is something you are struggling with, I would so encourage you to seek the proper help to get that sorted if that is a concern and something you would like to work on in the new year, because it's a really scary thing and not something to joke about at all. And I know there are people that struggle with that. And so definitely for you, it might be so difficult to cut alcohol. And I'm with you on that. And I would highly encourage you to speak to somebody to get the help that you need in that instance. And so really the takeaway here is, I'm okay if people do dry January if you're doing it to sort of assess how much alcohol you've been drinking and to really do the work on habits and what the rest of the year is going to look like for you when it comes to alcohol. And it goes with the sugar. I've had a few people say, I'm going to cut sugar completely out for the month of January. And then I will just say, well, what are you going to do in February? Oh, well, I'm just going to have sugar again. That is not setting yourself up for success. And there is a way to go about it where you can reduce the amount of sugar, but work on those habits so that you're not nixing it completely. And so this is one of the other things, and I'm going to talk about this in a later podcast as well, all about why fad diets do not work, because oftentimes with those, and similar to dry January, or if you're doing something in February where you're cutting something out, you're always looking at what can I eliminate from my diet and my life to make me feel better. But this is so frustrating for me because that is so hard on us. It's so hard to cut something out completely, especially when honestly you do not need to cut anything out. And so instead of restricting and eliminating and seeing what we can get rid of, I really want to reframe and normalize this question. What can I add into my diet to make myself healthier? What else can I put on my plate that will make it a well-balanced meal? Let's look at things that we can actually add in. Let's do that instead of always looking at what we can take away. There are ways we can add in so much stuff to our daily life, and that will be so much more sustainable, rewarding. You'll feel so much better. Who doesn't want to be able to eat some more food or drink some more water or whatever it is? But let's look at what we can add to our plates, to our meals, to our life. Let's add going to a strength training class in addition to the spin class we always go to. Let's look at adding in a walk every single day if we can. All of those things are such positive additions to a healthy and sustainable lifestyle. And so if you at some point during this new year coming up are asking yourself, oh, I need to get rid of carbs. No, let's stop doing that. Let's see, okay, carbs are making me a bit puffy. What can I do to counterbalance that? Why don't I add more veggies to my plate? Let's have a salad at every meal. Let's look at what we can add instead of reduce. And I think so many of us will be in a much happier place. And so kind of with that, I want to touch on one last thing before we get into the New Year's resolutions. And some people messaged me, those that did dry January, and said that they really needed a reset. They needed to detox their body. And so again, I kind of cringe when I hear those words because your body has a liver, and a liver's job is to literally do exactly what you think not drinking alcohol will do. It detoxes everything in our body. And you can kind of think of your liver as like the airport security screening, that belt. You're putting your bag on, someone's looking to see what the contents are. Okay, good, that passes through. Nope, okay, that gets taken out. That is what your liver does. Your liver is your detoxifier. And so you don't need a juice cleanse. You don't need fat loss pills. You don't need some special herbal tea to detox and cleanse your body, because you've got your liver to do that. And actually, the liver is the largest gland in your body. And so that is such an important gland. It has such an important job. And so you've got something within you that will detox and quote unquote reset whatever it is that you're looking to reset. So just keep that in mind when you are sort of trying to think about what you can do to feel a little better in your body. And so for those of you that are going to try dry January, I hope you have success, but I also hope there's a little bit of learning in it. And, if it is scaling back on some alcohol and that's something you want to work on for the rest of the year, I think that's fantastic. that is great, and we should work on that. But if you are doing dry January in the hopes to lose some weight, pounds, I should say, let's try and get rid of that thought process and look at February 1. What is February 1 going to look like when it comes to alcohol? Okay, so that is just my take on dry January, just because so many people have talked about it in the last couple weeks. And I thought, dang, this might be a really good podcast episode. So hopefully that is helpful in the dry January topic. And then this sort of ties into New Year's resolutions. Oh my gosh, I do not know where 2022 went. It has been a whirlwind of a year, just, personally, professionally, lots going on. But it is kind of hard to believe we're starting a brand new year, but we are. And, I wanted to check in and find out from people if you are a person that sets New Year's resolutions and if you should set one. And so I did a quick Google search on what the top resolutions were. And those were, and I'm reading them out: lose weight, get organized, learn a new skill, save money, spend less money, quit smoking. And then funnily enough, the main New Year's resolution that people set themselves for 2022 was to live healthier. And I really like all of those goals and resolutions. I do. But, and I'll talk about this in a moment, sometimes we get into a new year and we think, okay, amazing. It's a clean slate. It's a fresh start. It's a brand new year. I'm going to take a notebook and write everything down that I want to accomplish. And all of a sudden, you've got a list of 67 things that you want to do in 2023. And you look at that list and you think, oh my gosh, that is a lot of stuff. And you look at the list, you think, oh shit, that's overwhelming. Close the book, put it away, and that's that. And so I love that people are so gung-ho and ambitious and excited to start a new year. And for those that do set goals, I think that's fantastic. But so many people do not accomplish what they set the year out to do. And, I think people have really great goals, kind of like the ones I just read out. But other goals that come up are things like, I want to drink more water. I want to exercise more. I want to add more veggies to my diet. I want to increase protein consumption. I think cooking at home might be nice this year. And the list goes on and on. And so that is why it is so overwhelming. But a huge problem with those goals is that there is no action to that goal. There's no objective. There is no timeline. There's no specificity. Is that even a word? Specific. They're not specific goals. And so I have my one-on-one nutrition clients set goals for themselves every single week. And I get them to make it as specific as possible. And if they don't make it specific, I get them to redo the goals. Because if you just say, I want to lose weight, okay, amazing. You want to focus on your health. You want to drop some fat. But how are you going to do that? You can't just continue on the life that you're living right now. And if you're not losing fat now, how do you expect to lose fat keeping up with that same routine, right? So if you reframe that goal and say, I would like to lose up to 10 pounds of body fat by the end of the year. And I'm planning to do that by walking a little bit more every day. And that could even get more specific, walking 5 extra minutes every day to my already daily walk. And I'm going to make a point of adding a new colorful vegetable to my meals every single week. And so when you put some action to those goals and specifics, they are more likely to happen than just a basic blanket goal of I want to lose 5 pounds, because that is so easy to say, but as soon as you put how you're going to do it, it becomes real. And so, okay, veggies, perfect. So next time you're at the grocery store, right, this is part of my goal. What can I buy this week that I didn't buy last week? And it just goes on from there. And so my advice here is, if you are the type of person that gets so excited at the start of a new year, you're writing out 87 things that you want to do, you look at that list, get overwhelmed, close the book, and accomplish none of that, let's stop right there. Let's choose 1 or 2 things that are really important to you. And that's okay. And oftentimes we think, oh, that's such a small amount of whatever it is, that seems useless. You know what's the most underrated thing when it comes to getting your health on track? Is taking small steps, because small steps equals small action, and all of those small steps add up to big action, which equals big changes over time. And we're not in a rush to finish whatever goal it is you're setting for yourself. Let's take them slow. Let's really actually spend the time to develop the proper habits and behaviors to make these things a reality. And so then you can end the year or even get halfway through the year, and all of a sudden those 10 pounds are gone. You've hardly had to track anything, but over the course of the day, you've added a few more minutes to your daily walk. You've increased your veggies, which veggies are one of the most other underrated things when it comes to fat loss, because they are full of water, full of nutrients that keep you feeling full. So it's all of these small steps. We are so often excited to make huge, massive, crazy, major changes. And that is overwhelming, because often we accomplish none of them because it's just too much. We set the bar way too high instead of start small and work your way up from there. And so make sure there's an action and an objective to each goal you're setting, and make them as specific as possible. And so for me personally, I'm not one to set New Year's resolutions. I'm not a fan of that phrasing. But I have hopes for 2023 for me. And, a question I'm asking myself is, what will have had to happen in 2023 in order for that year to have been a success? And I actually love this question, because you can whittle that down into your every single day, every single week, every single month. So, if you are looking at your calendar and you've got an insane week ahead of you, just pause for a second and say, okay, what will have had to happen this week in order for it to be a success? Amazing. You can think, it reframes the busyness and maybe what an overwhelming week might look like into something that makes you pause for a moment and look at the week in a more positive light instead of an overwhelming light. And so for myself, I'm asking, what will, looking back at 2023, what will have had to have happened that year that will have made it a success? And for me, personally, a couple things, and these are vague, but I have them specific and they're written down. I'm really hoping to slow down a little bit and work on my personal health and mental health, physical health as well. And, I'm exploring a few options for that. But it's been a really, really wonderful but difficult year. There has been a lot that has gone on professionally and personally as well. And if some of you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen that I lost my grandma in July. And, she was such a shining light in my life. and someone that you can't really put into words how incredible of a human she was. And it just sort of puts life into perspective. And I think that is definitely one of the reasons why I've got very different goals for the new year. And something I want to sort of wrap this podcast episode up with is something my grandma told me and taught me. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little choked up because, it was a few months ago, in July, and it's still very real. And I think if you are someone that suffered any sort of loss this year, it's okay to let loose, let the tears flow, do what you need to do to help yourself. And don't feel afraid to reach out or ask for help, because I know sometimes that is one of the hardest things to do, but it is one of the most important things to do. And I know actually that is something I don't do enough. I have a tendency to bottle things up because I don't want to burden anybody with the things I'm going through. But what my grandma taught me was that your family and your friends are the most important people in your lives, and they are there to support you every step of the way. And you should be able to talk to them about fun stuff and difficult stuff. And so that is something I am really trying to work on myself. But I don't want to make this about me. But I do want to leave you with something my grandma told me, a week or so before she passed away. And she told me a few times before. And that was, if you have the opportunity to do something, just go for it, because you do not know what's around the corner, what's waiting for you, or really what your future holds. And so if you've been thinking about starting a new course, but you haven't because you're scared, just start it. Just go for it. If you've got the opportunity to do that, go for it. If there's a vacation you've been wanting to go on for so long, but you haven't because, money might be a bit tight or your schedule might not allow for it, but you think, actually, I probably could make this work, then go for it. If you have the opportunity to speak at an event or go to an event and meet new people, and there's nothing holding you back, just go for it, because again, you just don't know what's around the corner. You don't know how much time you have left. And the last thing anybody wants in life is to look back and have regrets. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, any trip I have gone on, I never come back from it and say, oh, I really wish I didn't go to Hawaii, or I really wish I didn't go on that weekend away. And this comes down to fat loss, health, and nutrition as well. If you have the opportunity to work on your health, to work on your nutrition, and that opportunity is right now, just go for it. Don't wait another year. Don't wait another month, because who knows again. And so I love my grandma to pieces for telling me, honestly, that one sentence. It's been such a life changer, because I have some opportunities coming up that I thought, oh, they're kind of scary. They're out of my comfort zone. But I think about her and she would just say, Carmi, just go for it. You can do it now. Just go for it. And so actually launching this podcast was one of those things. So yes, I want to wrap this up by thanking you all again for sticking with me and listening to this episode. It's a little different, talking about dry January, New Year's resolutions, but at the end of the day, it all comes back to the same thing. I want people to implement things that work in their lifestyle and that are sustainable things, because the more sustainable something is, the more successful it will be. And I know I've said that time and time again, but I will keep saying it because it is so true. And again, like my grandma said, if you have the opportunity to do something or to go somewhere or to enroll in a course or to whatever it is, don't waste any time. Just go for it. And I promise you will be so happy that you did. So that wraps up this week's episode of the Nutrition by Carmen podcast. I can't thank you enough again for listening. If you've made it this far through this episode, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And again, I would so appreciate if you could give me a 5-star review and a rating. That would help so much. And again, if you're on YouTube watching this, please subscribe, leave a comment, and I just so appreciate it. And I'm so looking forward. There's some amazing topics coming up on the next few episodes. So thank you for staying with me, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, no matter what time you're listening to this. Thank you so much, and we'll chat with you on the next episode.